This week I'm releasing Chapter 5 of my latest legal thriller audiobook, The Fixer. The first 4 chapters are already available in a variety of places, so check them out. A recent reader review of the ebook has this to say: a plot twister, riveting, great characters, a wonderfully twisted plot that keeps you second-guessing whodunit all through the book. Really well written, a great length, not too short or too long. Looking forward to reading more from this author. Anyhow, I thought that was a great review, so I'd share it with you. At this point in this story, Kirk Hoffman has now heard Dwayne Sachs' version of events and is still very concerned that Sachs is lying about what happened to his girlfriend. The full book is on Audible, link in the description. And now, Chapter 5.
5. I shouldn't have expected him to balk at the price. The man could afford that and much more. Rumor had it he was working his way to becoming a billionaire. But there'd also been reports of financial problems. I'd assumed the stories about him closing in on the billionaire notch had come about as the result of public relations, because it was easier to believe he was having financial problems. I stared at him, ignoring the dubious expressions on most of my team members' faces. Dwayne's lawyer, Sasha Weaver, seemed just as doubtful about us. "What happened last night?" I asked. "I had dinner with Rebecca and walked her back to the hotel. This isn't public knowledge. At least, I haven't seen anything about it in the news, but it will get out." I was pleased Jessa had been doing her job and had already discovered this. "Did you mention this in your video monologues?" He shook his head. "She from Utah?" "No, Kansas City." "Why was she here?" "She was in town for business, and—" He waited until all eyes were on him and then focused on me. I proposed." "Were you with her when she died?" I asked without hesitation, staring at Dwayne, expecting the answer could be yes, but that he'd tell me no. The natural thing to ask for was her response to his marriage proposal, but I wanted to catch him off guard. He shook his head, his hand clenching into a fist. "I'd have stopped it if I'd been there. I left because she had a business meeting and didn't want me messing it up for her." He cracked a sardonic smile. "That's what she said. She felt I might influence things and didn't want that. She wanted it to work on her own merits or not at all. She'd been trying for years to get out from underneath her parents' shadows and thought this would be the ticket. At least, that's what she told me." "Do you know who she was meeting with?" "I don't. I tried to get her to tell me, but she refused. I kept teasing her until she got frustrated, so I backed off. I'm not sure why she didn't want me to know." "Do you know what it was about?" "She wouldn't tell me that either. I asked if she was expanding her online perfume store, but she denied it." "But you were with her in her hotel room?" "Yes, I left at 9:49 p.m. I didn't know the time but heard that on the news, and that seems right. Her meeting was scheduled for 10:15. I tried hard to stay, but she pushed me out. I took my time in the hotel lobby, hoping to see who it was, but I didn't see anybody." I wondered if the report about him being the only one on the security video for that floor was accurate. I couldn't wait to see the actual footage. "A late-night business meeting in a hotel room?" I asked, frowning. Dwayne shook his head. "That's not so strange as it might have once been, at least not to me. My business is international. I work all hours of the day. I'm constantly taking calls at strange times and meeting people in weird places." I furrowed my brow, trying to decide what I believed and what might be a deception. From Lux's expression, she didn't believe a word Dwayne said. "When was Rebecca's body discovered?" I asked. "It says here—" Lux looked at her phone before focusing on Dwayne like he was the only person in the room. "That she was found at 11:04 p.m. Her room door was ajar and blood was smeared on the floor just inside. An employee named Otto Oakley noticed, knocked, and the door swung open, revealing her body. At that point, she might have still been alive, but the account is vague. He summoned an ambulance." I kept my eyes on Dwayne. He seemed oblivious to my stare as he shook his head and stared at Lux with glassy eyes, before focusing his attention on the table in front of him. He could probably sense Lux was skeptical and putting it to him this way to make him feel accused. I didn't believe that anything I saw from him was real, not yet. I'd met many good actors, and some of the best had never been on a stage. They spent their entire lives misleading others, pretending they were somebody they weren't. They rarely let their real selves show, even with people they trusted, because their deceptions had become so ingrained into who they were that they believed their own lies. It was a horrible way to live, building an image that could never be. That never ended well. I didn't know if this described Dwayne, but judging from what I knew, it was a safer bet than not. I shifted. How does hearing how Rebecca died make you feel? Awful. I can't tell you how painful it is for me to know she was in such horrible agony. He teared up, and it looked real. I loved her. I wanted to marry her. What did she say when you proposed? He bit his lip and looked away. That she'd think about it. My timing was bad. She was focused on her meeting, and I caught her off guard. What was your relationship like before this? We've been off and on for several years. I heard she had a drug charge that you helped with. That was made out as more than it was, and I didn't pay for her lawyers if that's what you're wondering. She didn't need my help. Her parents were with her every step of the way. I just offered moral support. She agreed to rehab and community service to get out of it. She wasn't a regular user. I doubt she touched anything like it since. Where did you go after you left the hotel? A club. Which one? Edicio. Edicio? I asked, repeating it back to make sure I had it right. Never heard of it. It's invite only. How long were you there? 3 hours. I went back to my office afterward. Who were you with at the club? A lot of people? He shrugged. There was a celebration. I don't remember what it was about. The crowd was a bit young, and I'm getting too old to go to such things, but a friend begged me, so I tagged along. Which friend? River Stewart. Anton leaned forward and typed the name in on his laptop. I knew that by the time our conversation was done, he'd have a basic workup of River Stewart. 24 hours from now, he'd have an in-depth report. Running our in-house background screening was Anton's primary assignment. I found it curious that Anton hadn't searched for Club Edicio, which meant he was aware of it. That was strange for a guy who lived in his office and barely ever went to his apartment. As far as I knew, Anton never hung out with friends in real life and lived most of his life online. Can you tell us more about the party? Sure. Dwayne was interrupted by the doorbell. Lux left to see who it was and came right back with a worried expression. You need to see this, Hoffman. When I arrived at the front door, I was startled to find my office building surrounded by cameras, people talking into microphones, and casual onlookers. A reporter stood at the door waiting for us to open it.